introduction and action.
If you're going to call me Zack, spell my name right. I'm confusing. I get it. Zachary has an H. Z-A-C-H-A-R-Y. Z-A-C-H is Zach. I don't care what you tell me. I don't care all the people who might be offended who are named Zach and call themselves Zack. But once you make it Zack, it's Z-A-C-K.
Let them know.
Just let them know.
There is no podcast like this in the world. Yeah. Okay? We are one of one, the only one. Okay?
Welcome to the STHM Podcast, where our goal is to produce meaningful content for industry leaders in sport, tourism, and hospitality management. I'm C.
I'm Dr. G, and like C said, we are elated to bring to you our very first episode of the STHM Podcast. Now, because it's our very first episode of industry interviews, because it's Black History Month, it was only right that we brought to you all a STHM legend.
Yes, today we have an STHM Sport and Rec alum from the class of 08 and the president of the STHM Minority Alumni Coalition. He's worked in sports, fashion, events, business development, and now he's an entrepreneur with his own business, Rebel Hill Consulting. That's why he's known as the Zack of all trades, Mr. Zachary James.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. So to open us up, we're going to start off with something that we call STHM Spicy Takes, some hot takes, okay?
We starting with some hot takes?
We starting spicy. As we've done our homework, we realized that you're an Eagles fan.
Die hard.
Oh, great. So this is our first hot take question.
Gotcha.
Who is the greatest Eagle of all time?
So Brian Dawkins is greatest of all time. It's hard for me to I want to go Reggie. But I saw Brian, didn't see Reggie. So they're kind of a tie in my brain, but I got to go Dawkins. I only own currently one authentic Eagles jersey, and it's a Dawkins jersey. So going Dawkins. Kelly Green, Dawkins jersey.
OG.
Yep. I almost wore it today.
Should have.
But yeah, I'm going Dawkins.
Okay. Next.
Now, we know, and we'll get to this later, but you had some history working for the Nets. So
Yes.
we have to see where your alliance lies. Either the Sixers or the Nets. You got to pick.
So it's always Sixers.
Okay.
100%. I was mildly ostracized in my corporate career, being a Philly guy, Sixers, Eagles. Mind you, my tenure with the Nets, the Giants won 2 Super Bowls while I was living in New York. Whole bunch of stories surrounding that, being in the sports space. But I'm diehard Sixers. Now, the one thing I will say, and hopefully you do not bring up pictures of my social media and try to play me, I have a lot of Nets gear. Like, I got T-shirts, I got jerseys. I went to the All-Star Week in Indy, wore my Carter jersey. Best dunker of all time. How do you not wear that? So if you see me, yeah, I may look a little Nets allegiance vibe, but diehard Sixers, always been a Sixers fan. I have a signed box of Popeye's chicken from Charles Barkley that my mother picked up back when I was 2. So I have gear. Like, I have like Sixers stuff in my house. It stays forever. So I'm always Sixers.
In comparison to your one authentic Eagles jersey, how many Sixers jerseys do you have?
One. It is a Iverson. It's one of those weird kind of like hybrid jersey. It's like a red Iverson jersey.
Okay.
From back when you had that logo with the swoosh under it, with the gold in it. That was one of my favorite jerseys. But I have a red Iverson jersey. I'm more of a shirts guy. They don't really make a lot of big jerseys. So I got a lot of gear, got a lot of shirts, but not a ton of jerseys.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad we cleared that up.
Fair.
Okay, so our next hot take is, and this is for me, this is really going to set the tone for the rest of the interview. I'm letting you know that right now.
Okay, I'm nervous, a little hot.
Kobe, Mike, or LeBron? Pick one. Yeah.
Reminder, one of them is in her office.
I appreciate the reminder. That's kind of, I'm like, all right, she's not going to like this answer. I'm going to go Kobe.
Okay.
Kobe is the only player whose career I've seen from start to finish. I've seen all LeBron, but he ain't finished yet. Not to say that that's going to take anything away from his legacy. He's one of the GOATs. But I had a better appreciation, I think, for Kobe. One, which I'm sure most people will say, his mindset, his approach to the game. I love his roots and his backstory. I love the fact that he's local. He's from this area. I was an Upper Marion guy. He was a Lower Marion guy. Every time someone asks me what school I go to, and I go Upper Marion, like, oh, you went to school with Kobe. No, he was Lower Marion. I was Upper Marion. And don't think Upper Marion is fancier than Lower Marion, because it's not. Lower Marion's where the money's at.
Let them know.
But anyway, he was Lower Marion. We were around the same age, about 2-3 years older than me, and I'm sure most people can remember. I remember exactly where I was when I heard he passed. I was taking my mother to Atlantic City, and it was the first time I saw that many grown men cry in person. I was in the poker room, and you start hearing people say, "Oh my God," and you're like, "Oh, someone just lost money, whatever," and you hear it again, and now you see someone sobbing, and I'm just like, what's going on? And it was such I won't even say traumatic, but it was one of those moments that you really never see. So it stuck with me a lot. And of course, just his business mindset. I know LeBron has that as well. Jordan probably does. I'm not gonna put all the shoes on him. You know, he got some other stuff too. But Kobe's mindset towards entrepreneurship and business, I really love that stuff too. So I'm going Kobe. And he was in the production space too, which I've started to get into as well. So Kobe's my answer.
That was safe. Safe answer.
Safe. I gave a good explanation as to why.
You did.
That didn't have anything to do with basketball.
You did. So I'll accept it.
I'll accept it too, but getting to something that I know more about.
Okay.
While we're talking about greats, who would you say is the greatest musician of all time in your eyes?
Musician? That's kind of a loaded question.
It's a loaded podcast.
This is a very loaded podcast. I'm going to say my favorite rapper, because he's also transitioned into being a okay musician, Andre 3000.
Okay.
Not a fan of the Flute album. All right. I'm not saying it's trash, nothing like that. It's you know,
trash.
if I hear that in the elevator, I'm like, oh, these people got with it. They got him in the elevator. That'd be cool. But I didn't really get a lot of play in the car. I got the sub one and I'm rocking that. I didn't get that. But his legacy of his career as a rapper and artist, he was already in my top 5 any category. So I like the branching off. And I also anticipate him getting even better, making more eclectic stuff, which I'm here for. So I'm gonna go Andre 3000.
Okay, another safe answer, but I like it.
I'll take that. See, I'm playing it smart. You say it was a hot seat. I don't want to start sweating in here, so I'm playing it safe.
Got you.
All right.
And so, since you are the podcasting guru yourself, you know, you're here on the STHM Podcast, where
How
there
did I
is
get the guru title. Let's break this down. I've been podcasting now for, well, actually, it has been a little minute. I'm getting
see,
old.
there we are.
I'm getting old. All right, but still, when I look at someone's experience level, based on what they're doing, I give guru titles to the folks who have been doing it for a really long time, or they're like a savant at it. Like everyone wants to mimic them, and I think I still get in my own way of knowing that people like what I do and they want to do what I do or learn from me. So I don't give myself that title. So it feels weird when I hear it from other people. I'll accept it humbly. But I know so many folks, I'm like, I want to get to their level. Like they're the gurus, you know? But I'll take it. Continue.
The humility is admirable. I wish my students would have the same humility.
I hear you.
So-
I don't know if I had it when I was at Temple. I was a little crazy. But things change over time.
Of course, of course. So what's your favorite podcast?
Can I be biased?
Yes.
Watch the Don't Call Me White Girl podcast because I produce it. And she is the fastest growing black female podcaster in the country. So I want her to grow faster. So I'm gonna say that's my favorite podcast. But I don't listen to podcasts really at all. I do watch a lot of stuff on YouTube, especially a lot of things in the cultural space or in the music space, sports space. Everyone Loved Drink Champs, or at least I did for a long period of time. I was watching that, $1 Million Worth of Game. So all those things I'll watch is like shows. That's like my TV. I don't watch TV anymore. I might watch shows. But of course, I watch the Don't Call Me White Girl podcast, which is technically a show on YouTube.
I like that you at least admitted that you don't fit into your own category.
Not at all. Not at all. People are like, oh, you do podcasting. I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, where can I find you? Well, you're not going to find me anywhere. Like, my face isn't really on them. I did a little LinkedIn show for a while called Zoom In with Zack. But once I got so busy producing other people's shows, I kind of let that fall to the wayside a little bit. But yeah, I'm a webcast YouTube watcher for sure.
Okay. And you said you've got a good amount of experience over the course of your lifetime, longer than my lifetime for sure.
Damn.
Just saying.
Did you say my experience is longer than your lifetime?
Sure did.
That's what she said? Okay. Just wanted to
Maybe.
double
I
check
mean,
that.
I was like 4 when you graduated. So, in the context of our varying ages,
Accurate.
what would you say your most memorable sports moment of your lifetime would be?
Ooh, wow. Most memorable sports moment of my lifetime was in 2012 when we opened the Barclays Center. That was hot. And I was in a position at the forefront of that, being on our small 8-person sales team when we began selling that stadium, which really started 2 years before that. So only 8 of us selling this while it's still under construction. We're giving hard hat tours. I was intimately a part of that building from that space. And me being Zack of all trades and having done a lot, I also have a former life as a construction worker. I was in Local 135 out of Norristown, did mason, tending, and scaffold building. So when I'm giving these hard hat tours, I know what I'm talking about walking through these buildings. So I built so many great relationships. I sold suites, courtside seats, the whole 9. And when that stadium opened for the first time, the energy that was in that building, the music, they're playing Biggie, blasting it through. I got people all over there just hype, having the time of their lives, and they're accrediting me for bringing them into that environment. It was just super awesome. It was a feeling that I couldn't have predicted. So yeah, opening the Barclays Center was great, both on the sports side, and technically it opened with 8 Jay-Z concerts back to back to back. So I went to 6 of them.
Whoa.
I worked 2 of them. The other 4, I was a hot mess in the audience. But all that was within a 2-week span, those concerts and opening of the building. So yeah, that was probably my best sports moment for sure. I don't even remember if we won that game.
Doesn't matter.
I don't.
Doesn't matter.
You won the experience.
I did.
Yeah,
It was great.
yeah. And you've already mentioned entities that you've been affiliated with or that you just love, like the Nets, like the Sixers and things like that. What I want to know is, well, first of all, you're a Temple guy, okay? You're a Temple guy. Show them your hat. Show the camera your hat.
You right there with it.
2008, STHM proud.
It says STHM on the side. I embroidered it.
Okay, custom.
Who got their hat embroidered? Thank you. I suggest all alumni embroider your year on your hat. And it also tells you how old this hat is. It's a little dingy, so I'm not going to show you too much. But as soon as I graduated, I put that on the side. Very proud alumni.
It's a vintage piece. That's what I call it.
It is.
So
don't call it vintage. Only she can say that. 4 years old. Anyway, what were you saying?
So if we go back in the day,
Yeah.
what was your favorite on-campus spot?
So I have a very, I won't say safe, it's not a safe answer, it's a very true answer. But I never lived on campus. Went here for 6 years. Never lived on campus, so really I was kind of come to school, get my education, drive back to West Philly. I lived in West Philly the whole time. There was one spot, I think across from where the movie theater is, I know sold like 10-cent wings on like certain days, and I would hang out with folks there. I don't even remember the name of it. Might have been there 10 times over the course of 6 years. So I didn't really have too many hangout places other than really, bookstore. There was a lot of time spent in the bookstore. The one right at the corner over there at Cecil B and Broad. So that, if I had to pick a spot, now that I think about it, I gotta do that. But I really was not on campus a ton. Like even Max's, I've been there more times since graduating than I have when I was there. But again, that's just different lived experiences. You know, I didn't have the opportunity to stay in a dorm. I was home, or not even home. I was in the 3rd floor above my grandmother's house, paying very minimal rent, but living on my own with my own spot. So that was a pretty cool environment for me. But you know, everyone has those different experiences that they go through. So yeah, no, I don't know a ton of spots that were on campus that I did. I was really much into school, out of school, and then hanging out at other places with fellow alums and of course non-alums, people that I just know from Philly. So that was how I ended up going through it.
Okay, well now that we're here, right, we're at 02, 08 Zack. We're at undergrad Zack, and mind you, 02, 08 is when Lean With It, Rock With It came out.
Yes.
That was when Shoulder Lean came out.
Knuck If You Buck came out.
Knuck If You Buck came out. The babies don't know about it. She don't know about this.
I know about Knuck If You
4
Buck.
years old. 4 years old.
I know about Knuck If You Buck.
But this is the time when Knuck.
We know.
So this is when Knuck When You Buck came out,
Of
right?
course, yeah.
And so thinking back to vintage STHM, let's call it that. Can you describe what STHM was like back in the day?
Yes, I can, and it makes me really happy. It was an awesome school to be at, and of course I'm saying this not saying anything about what it's been like since. I just know my years there, it was popping. It was popping. I actually chose STHM originally because I thought if I go to school and do something in sports, it'll be easy. That literally was my mindset. And when I got here, I started to understand it wasn't going to be that easy. And I was like, oh, we're one of the top sport and rec schools in the country, if not the world. I did not know this. that originally. I was just like, oh, sports. I know a lot of athletes. I want to be an agent or something like that. So I'll be in this spot. And when I tell you, when I got here, the education was so top notch. And also I was working other jobs. I think the most credits I ever took in a semester, maybe once I took 12, but usually it was 9. I was taking courses in the summer. So that's why it took me 6 years to get through. I couldn't go to school as much because I was working and paying my way through. But yeah, the encouragement I got from my professors, the bonds I built with some of the professors, the relationships I had with a lot of my fellow students, especially I had a cool crew, John Brennan, shout out to my man John. We were in the Center City classes a lot because we had a lot of night classes, the both of us. It was just a really cool, awesome experience. And then it was like the pride that STHM had, like no matter who you're talking to, even when you come and you talk to some alums, there's a level of pride that like, oh, you're from STHM, I already know you're official. Like, you know this industry, you know what you're doing. Even when I would go on some interviews back when I was going in that space, like their eyes would perk up when they saw STHM because they knew it was a different breed of college student in this sport and rec space. Same for hospitality, it was on top of the world as well. I remember talking about, I don't know if they still do this, but we would take a trip of students up to Madison Square Garden and interview for internships. The Garden wasn't pulling interns from schools outside of New York. You know, they were taking Syracuse kids, they were taking Rutgers folk, they were taking kids from New York schools, and then they go and pluck STHM. And we basically were guaranteed 8 or 9 internship spots. I did mine at the Liberty, shout out to the Liberty. But yeah, those sorts of exposure opportunities and the level of professionalism, like, it's what set STHM apart for me. So that was the professionalism, the pride that you had. I love that about STHM. Yep.
And talking about those experiences like that internship with the Liberty, what were some things when it comes to opportunities or resources that you didn't take advantage of when you were at HCHM that you ended up regretting?
That I didn't take advantage of. Well, the interesting thing is I took advantage of all the opportunities that the professors I trusted the most told me to do. I'm sure there were a lot of things I missed out on just because I wasn't on campus. So I didn't really know about some stuff. And really, I didn't have a ton of free time. So if it wasn't really in the construct of the classes, I didn't really explore too much. But luckily, first off, gotta shout out the GOAT, Jeff Montague. He told me what to do, told me what stuff to take advantage of. That trip to New York, he told me I had to go. We also did one out to Pittsburgh for a conference. We actually did a road trip for that one, which I will not tell the stories of the road trip to Pittsburgh. But about 8 or 9 of us went out there to Pittsburgh. We had a blast, learned so much stuff, and those sorts of opportunities were afforded because the school had the success they had and the relationships they had. So I think I did a good job taking advantage of what was really like pushed in my face, but I was just one of those students that didn't really look for other things to do because I had 5 jobs and I was entrenched in school. So I'll say there probably was a lot of things I should have did. I encourage people, if you have the time and the bandwidth, to take advantage of everything that a school's willing to offer you. You're paying the money anyway. If you're gonna pay that tuition, you might as well get what you can get. So I'm sure there were some things I missed out on just from lack of knowledge or time. But the things I did take advantage of, especially when they were industry-related stuff, I tried to soak all that up that I could.
Got you.
Yeah.
So let's get to where that got you. With Post-Grad Zack of all trades, after you graduated, you worked for the Brooklyn Nets in sales. What are some things that you think are misunderstood when it comes to working in sales straight out?
Wow, I got something for you on that one. First off, and I won't claim Zack of all trades till I came back to Philly.
Okay.
I might have had it in me a little bit, but it wasn't materialized until my return to Philly. The one misconception about sales is that it's not fun. I dreaded it. I literally did not want to go into sales. I did not learn about sales in college. I know you all have a sales class now. I've actually volunteered to come and speak. I haven't yet. You need to bring me. But it was a unknown to me. And I kind of quickly learned that that's where you get started in sports. For most people, is you're starting in that sales space. Shout out to Brian Ayers. This is my cousin's husband who is in sales. And I remember he sat down and talked to me shortly after I graduated and was basically encouraging me to explore sales because he was like, first off, you got it. You can do it. Second off, there's not a lot of brothers in these spaces. and you have the skill to make that an advantage. So he was really encouraging me to go that route. And I was on the fence. If it wasn't for the fact that Nets offered me a sales job when I went for the interview, and I would have had an opportunity to apply to other jobs, I might have continued to explore and found something outside of sales. But I do like a challenge. And I kind of had a hunch at the time that sales was more of a relationship thing. And I'm a relationship builder through and through. So I said, let's do it. And I was very accurate. You do not need to know anything about sales, technically, to sell. You need to know how to talk to people. You need to know how to get someone to like you. Selling is a necessity. People got to buy, people got to sell, regardless. I know 30 or 40 realtors, minimum. Who am I going to buy my house from? It's the person I like. One of them realtors might even be my cousin. If I don't like you, cousin, I'm not buying a house from you. So if you're really a realtor, you're going to make money, you got to become the most likable realtor you can. And how you do that, whether it be through content or expertise or whatever, that's really your goal at the end of the day. So I took sales as a relationship building sort of mindset. Most people, and I assume a lot of folks, teams still do this, we start in a position called inside sales, which inside sales is no benefits, a low pay rate, and it's almost like a testing ground. You know, usually they lock you in for 3 months or something like that. And you have to prove yourself. You have to sell in that time period enough to be in the top of that group to get put onto the full-time team. Sometimes they'll keep you in inside sales because they see promise, but some folks moved on and are going to bring other people in. And in our inside sales room in New Jersey at the time, it was a box room with no windows, probably 16 cubicles that only had walls up this high so you could see everybody. Phones, and I kid you not, don't say nothing, see. We have phone books.
I know what those are.
I know what phone books are.
I know she know what it is. I'm just saying, I was dialing through a phone book. This is 2008. And we had some computers at the front. That's where we would have our CRM system and we would log in, you know, our information. But we usually literally had phone books and, of course, our own notes to call on folks. And our quota was 100 calls a day and an hour and a half talk time. And over the course of my tenureship, I averaged maybe 50 calls a day. The next person was at like 89, 90. People were crushing it. But my talk time was 4 hours. And everyone else's was an hour and change. Because I'm building relationships on the phone. I am engaging people. I am continuously building that relationship in that way so that now when it comes time to buying a seat, they're just picking their seat. They already know me. They trust me. Building that trust over the phone is tough, but it's definitely doable. So that was always my goal. Build relationships. And I think for anyone getting into sales, think about that. Think about having a conversation with somebody, actually caring about what's going on in their life, talking about things and coming up with questions you can ask that break the ice. One of my favorites was when someone would ask how you're doing. I never said I was doing fine. I made stuff up a lot. And luckily there weren't like camera phones too heavy right then. So I was like, you know what, buddy? I wish I could say my day was going good. I spilled coffee on my tie this morning. I feel terrible. I'm still making my calls. How's your day going? And that personal feeling totally diffused them. Now they actually want to talk about their day with me because they know I'm having a bad day. Maybe they are too, and we're chit-chatting. I didn't even bring up the team yet. Unfortunately, when we did bring up the team was trash in Jersey. We was bad. We had the third worst record of all time one of them years. So making phone calls in that environment is rough. But again, if you're not calling to talk about, hey, you want to buy this seat? Instead of like, hey, you remember last night with the game and I took your kid down to the court? Like, how's little Johnny doing? Like, how was his birthday? Totally different ballgame with people. So I just tell folks, build relationships. Don't worry about, am I going to hit a quota? Worry about, are the people I'm talking to, do they like me? And if that's your focus, you're going to be successful because folks is going to buy regardless.
And it's important to note that with that strategy, he worked for the Brooklyn Nets, by the way. With that strategy, you went from an account manager to premium all access manager. Super fancy, right?
A little bit.
A little fancy. And so what would you tell students that's about to graduate that's super nervous about sales being their only post-graduation option?
If they're nervous about it, that is 100% understandable. You're supposed to be. One of the things we did in our sales training is we would role play. So I also encourage you to do that prior to doing any of these positions. You're gonna probably role play the interview process with somebody. role play conversations. And you can pretend you're selling season tickets or whatever. But those role playing sessions were 10 times more difficult than the phone calls because you have your other coworkers looking at you and critiquing you, and you feel the eyes on you, and you're trying not to mess up. It is so much more strict of an environment. So I say, try to do a little bit of role playing with a family member or a friend, and that'll help you get rid of the nerves because talking out loud and multiple people hearing you or someone face-to-face hearing you is different than on a phone. The other thing too is, and STHM did a great job of this while I was there, is network. Just networking with folks will just make you more comfortable in talking with folks that you don't know. I think this generation in general, because of the influx of technology and cell phones and their advancements, it's easier to kind of not be comfortable face-to-face with somebody. I say do as much as you can to break that habit. Network with folks. At networking, you're just looking to talk and get to know somebody. Not, oh, I don't have a job, so what am I gonna talk about? Can't come with that mindset. The mindset has to be, I'm gonna let people know who I am. What can I talk about? I used to play sports, or I went to this school in this area, or I'm a fan of this sports team. Find something to talk about and build relationships. You'll get comfortable just communicating with people. And if you can talk to someone and sell them in person, you can do it over their phone. So I say just get out there and simulate the environment of sales. And again, know that wherever you go, there will be training, there will be guidance. And you already got a head start on people like me because we didn't have sales classes in college. I know some folks have gone through that now at Temple. So definitely simulate the environment as best you can, and the nerves will start to fade away for sure.
Gotcha. So moving ahead in your career, we're past the sales. You're now an entrepreneur. Can you talk a little bit about your business and what kind of advice you'd give to others that might want to start their own?
I can. To give just a little bit of background, when I decided to leave the Nets, it was sort of a trifecta scenario that took place. My mother fell ill down here. She had a stroke, and I was coming down on the weekends to help take care of her, like every weekend. I got married up there. My wife just graduated school. We ended up getting married, and also within that same month or two, I got fed up with the Nets asking me to do way more than what they were paying me to do. This is after they told me, hey, do this, and in this many months we're going to pay you. Once we got about double that many months down the line, and I'm wondering what's going on, it was just kind of, all right, maybe the ceiling is here. You know, my bosses ain't but 35, 40, not even. They're not going places. I don't see the advancement. That's why sometimes I have an interesting reaction to that title, because the title didn't have as much bite as it should have. But all those things happening at the same time. I don't want to raise kids in New York. I'd rather do that in Philly. So it was a perfect storm to move back. And of course, I didn't tell the Nets that third part. I just told them about the other two. And they called the Sixers up and said, hey, you got a rock star coming your way. Whatever position he wants, hire him. And I got, toured around the Sixers facility and met some of the folks there. I think Heck, his last name, Chris Heck, I think his name was. I think he might have been the president at the time. But yeah, they basically were like, hey, we're going to make this sales marketing or sales in a sort of the business development position for you to help run this program that they started because they got it from the Nets and I ran it at the Nets. And they're basically like, hey, let us know when our books turn over that you still want this position. They gave me about a month to 2 months to decide. So I had some time. And again, my focus at that point is back with a team in Philly, just keep it moving, but now I'm closer to home. So it'll be even more fun, right? During the time frame of me like waiting to communicate, I'm teaching my wife how to drive because these New York females do not know how to drive. Males too. But in general, you're a New Yorker, you're taking a bus or a train. So teaching a spouse how to drive is terrible. Way worse than trying to teach a kid. Way worse. So I'm doing that, I'm taking care of my mother, nursing her back to health. Guess who calls?
Who calls?
Temple University. I'm on the board for STHM, and I was zooming in for the last 2 years. Now I'm actually in the boardroom in this school. That was my first introduction to this building. And I guess word got around through some channels, and they called me about being a director of major gifts. So I was like, that sounds really interesting. Tell me more. And I went and interviewed for that position. It was perfectly tailor-made to my skill set. They basically wanted me to go to certain territories in the country and schmooze rich alumni to donate money. Mindset at that time being, maybe we'll build a football stadium on campus. So I'm all about it. That could be great. I don't have to work in a stadium till midnight, 40 nights out of a year. I get paid a little more. I might be able to go get my master's at a discount or free, and I get to travel. I'm 30 at this point, so let's do that. So yeah, got the interview, went through that. I noticed as I was going through that interview process and walking through the office that no one looked like me. I was like, oh, I'm a perfect fit. I'm a shoo-in. They need some diversity up in here. Crushed the interview, killed it, knew I was going there, did not call the Sixers. And they took another 2 to 3 weeks to tell me they were choosing someone else, someone who looked like everyone I saw in that room, someone who was not a Temple graduate, which blew my mind. And I did not have a career. And I called the Sixers and said, hey, what's up? And they were like, we moved on and filled all our positions. Like, you either have to wait till someone moves on or gets fired or whatever, or next year. And I basically did not have a career. So that led to me falling into entrepreneurship. I did not have the goal of, let me be an entrepreneur. I ended up doing some part-time work for a company and found out I was way overqualified, started crushing all of their numbers. It was Renewal by Anderson. I was the person at the home show getting you to sign up to let someone come into your house and do measurements and stuff. So I used to sell Nets tickets on the concourse of Nets games while the team's down, getting their butts kicked, and you got a kid in your hand and he's screaming and the anthem's going off and you got food in one hand. You don't want to talk to someone about buying tickets for the future. I used to crush that. So to someone who needs windows, I can convince you to have someone come get a window. So I set all their records to the point where they wanted me to be a consultant and work on a sports division of their marketing branch. So while I'm doing that, one of my other buddies who I used to work with at the Nets, again, build relationships. That's another key. No matter what company you go to, if it's an intern, meet people, build relationships, get them on your LinkedIn, because those relationships will help you out in the future. This dude was selling Barclays Center alongside me and left to go work for Thuzio Executive Club, which was Tiki Barber's company. High-end client entertainment through sports storytelling. So they started doing that. This is based out of New York. And he calls me up one day and he's like, hey, how's it going with the Sixers? And I'm like, guess what? I'm not working there. I don't really have a job. I'm doing part-time work. So he's like, Thuzio's starting Philly. You should apply. So I said, perfect. I go and apply, get down to the final 2. Me and a gentleman named Pat Ryan, who's my guy. We both go up to New York. We get interviewed. They give Pat the job, as they should have. Everything I did for the Nets, he did it for the Sixers and the Flyers. So he knew everybody that had courtside seats, suites, and that's the demographic you need to buy this product. But they were like, hey, if you would like to come on board as a consultant and help him grow the Philly branch, we'd be happy to have you. It'd be commission only, but if you want to do that, you can. So now I'm like, well, this company is giving me an opportunity to network and connect with the muckety-mucks of Philly, which I need to start meeting that group anyway. And they just got voted a top 5 startup in New York. So I can have a top 5 startup as a client and the country's biggest window company as a client doing sports-focused stuff. Why don't I just create this sports marketing consulting firm? And that's what started Rebel Hill Consulting. It had 2 very terrible names before Rebel Hill Consulting. We won't talk about that. But that's what started the brand. And I still have a great relationship with Thuzio till today. I've gained countless clients since then, some that I became business partners with, some that have taught me new skills, which is how the Zack of all trades thing began. Once I learned your business and learned how to sell it, because again, at the time, I was sales and marketing consultant. I will come and learn your business and help you sell it. But in that process, I learned your business, and I learned how to do it. And I start to be able to offer it and sell it in conjunction with you. Not like, oh, I'm gonna take your business and none of that. But you get to be so intimate with the skill set that now people know you for it. Now I know how to do it. So yes, now I'm a videographer, I'm an editor, I'm a podcaster. But that's because my first client was a media platform. And I helped them sell commercials. But then I learned how to write a script to a commercial. And then I learned how to produce a commercial. Then I became a PA and was on set. Then I learned how to mic folks up. And I learned how to set the lights. It was a process of learning all these things over serving the clients that I was bringing into them. Next thing you know, I own a video production company. So it snowballed, not quickly. This took many years. But starting from, I guess, 2015 all the way up, let's say, to the pandemic, at that point, I had 4 or 5 clients that were also business partners. And then I'm also serving small entrepreneurs in various ways. And again, it branched out from just sales and marketing to content creation, to social media management, to diversity, equity, and inclusion work. It's gone very widespread, which most people will say is wrong. I'm in the mindset that if you can do it, and you can do it well, why not? I think I always hear people say you need 7 streams of income, 8 streams of income. How do you do that if you only do one thing? The only place I know of that is real estate. You can have each house be a different stream of income, but you're still a realtor, or you're still just buying and selling homes. I'm doing it from I can do this, I can do that, I can do this, And the toughest part is just keeping everything organized. So if you can keep it organized, which I've done, like, I'll give myself a B+, B-.
So humble.
Yeah, I can get better. I definitely can get better. But if you can keep yourself organized, I say, why not do everything you can do? It gives you the best opportunity to grow, because I know the other thing that's been kind of cool is some things at some point are gonna pop. So the podcasting at one point was just me doing it myself, then it was just doing virtual shows. Now I'm producing one of the biggest podcasts in the country. So it can change quick. And sometimes then you realize I gotta pivot a little bit and steer more resources into that. So that's how Rebel Hill Consulting birthed Rebel Hill Productions, which is now my video-based platform. That's what does the podcasting, and now I'm looking for editors and shooters and folks I can bring in to grow that, because right now I'm hands-on with every podcast. I'd much rather go get it, have a team produce it, share the money, grow the business. So got none of that from my education at school. It was kind of, you learn it over the years. But the cool thing is I've built some great relationships with folks from Fox 2, that now I have a lot of people who have a more collegiate training of entrepreneurship. And they're giving me ideas and stuff that I didn't know about. That's why even mentors, get mentors wherever you can. I don't care if they're older than you, younger than you, or where they're at. Like, mentorship is so huge. So I've had mentors in my life. I've mentored a ton, but I've also had mentors in my life, especially in the areas that I need to improve at, that have helped me a lot. So definitely gotten a lot in the content space and in the entrepreneurial running a business space.
And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm a professor and I have to advocate for my students.
Please do.
You mentioned all of these roles and all of these holes you need to fill within Rebel Hill Consulting.
For sure.
Are there any opportunities for our students to volunteer or intern if they're interested?
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of what I need is in that content creation space. So folks that are in the mindset of doing anything in the content space, whether it be social media, podcasting, producing shows. I have either projects that I can bring them in on so they can learn. Sometimes, depending on their skill level, I could have projects I can bring them in where they can work on it and get paid. I'm always looking for folks that want to be in that space. The most valuable thing currently are editors. Also, folks that want to be in that DEI space. I do have a DEI business, Demystifying Diversity podcast, and we also are doing trainings and workshops. So I'm always looking for students that want to learn in that space, and I can find some way that we can get them involved in what we're currently doing. Right now, most of the areas they get involved in is in the social media space of the platform, and then also in the lead generation space. So I guess that's another area, folks that want to learn sales. I always have opportunities to teach them how to talk on the phone, different techniques to use. I always want to teach things that, yes, you can help me grow my business, but you can take this knowledge and grow your own business, or get that job you're looking for. So I say a lot: content, DEI, sales. Those are the buckets I can educate and mentor.
Right. And so, as we know, you produce podcasts at Rebel Hill Consulting, and podcasts are kind of framed as new media, if you will, specifically in sports, right? And so traditional media is Sports Center, First Take with Skip and Stephen A. But now we're in new media where, like we said, is that Uncle Shay Shay, right? That Club Shay Shay stuff. And so what I want to know is specifically, do you think our students should take podcasting seriously, right? Because this is something that's relatively new, podcasting and sports shows. Should they take it seriously and join the STHM Podcast team? Shameless plug. There's my camera. Shameless plug. Join the squad. Right. So should they take it seriously, or should they try to stay in that traditional media realm?
So to answer the question bluntly, yes. They should take it seriously. Quite frankly, anything you put your time into, you should take it seriously. I think I had dreams of being a sportscaster in some degree when I was coming up, and the only way to take that seriously was to move my butt to Bristol and try to be an intern in this cold climate. And the hurdles and the opportunities were so small and few and far between prior to this podcasting boom. Right now, folks are becoming very skilled at podcasting, and also growing a podcast platform isn't just being a personality. Some of the elements, I have one kid on my team who basically considers himself a YouTube architect. He just does the back end of YouTube and will put in the keywords and do all the things he needs to do to make sure you get visibility. Learning that skill is super valuable in this space. If someone wants to be in front of the camera and wants to talk sports, you got to practice. You got to do it to be good at it. So opportunities like this I wish they were here when I was here, because I would have definitely been utilizing the podcast space, and I wasn't even the type of person that wanted to be in front of a camera. Still am not that much, but you got to hone your skills and to kind of keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. How do you not take advantage of something like this? Because realistically, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, podcasting is TV. You know, it is what you're going to go watch. You know, I remember back when they came out with the Hulus and the Slings and all that kind of stuff, and it was like $30. All right, I'll deal with live TV. My Hulu bill is $84 right now. I'd much rather go to YouTube and watch podcasts. I can get live TV at the bar. I don't need this. So yes, 100% folks should take it serious. And I commend you for having this platform and the creativity to even come up with this. As many folks know, I am part of the MAC. Actually, and I'll correct this, I was gonna say it earlier, but I don't want Johanna or Janelle to beat me up. I am a co-founder of the MAC, not president, co-founder. I do act a little dictatorish at times, but Johanna Bess and Janelle Bico, we came up with this idea collectively and then made this group. So shout out to my co-founders and of course all the other leadership folks we have over there. But yeah, we were doing our best to be innovative and provide something new and creative for alumni. And it was so well received that, you know, we are like an established part of the Alumni Association now. This will be that same thing. This should take off. I hope it does take off. We'll do what we can to make it take off, because a big thing that we have on our alumni is we want to impart knowledge. We don't always know the best way. We don't know the most effective way all the times. And by effective, we want it to be received by as many people as possible. We have a mentorship program right now, but it's all one-on-ones, which is nothing wrong with that. But if we can give our knowledge to 100, 200, 300 students, if students in the future come back and watch these episodes and get knowledge there as well, I mean, the impact is multiplied. So I love that you guys are like 10xing the ability to really have this alumni-student connection. And I think you'll see down the line that it's only going to benefit the school, you know, in so many ways. So yes, take podcasting seriously, y'all, especially this one.
Thank you for advocating for us.
For sure.
Thank you so much.
For sure.
Okay, and so like I told you before, we did our research. Right, we got your role wrong, but we did our research for the most part.
Got a lot of roles. It's confusing. I don't even blame you. Like, there's a lot going on.
And so throughout this research, we came across an interview you did with This Is It Network. Shout out to This Is It Network.
Ooh, yep.
And you talked about the importance of relationships in your role, right? And you just talked about that maybe 15, 20 minutes ago. And as a professor, we always tell students network, build relationships. But can you speak to the nuance of building relationships? What does relationship building look like, and specifically giving some students some tips and tricks on how to develop meaningful relationships right now?
Awesome, great question. And I don't think there's any current students that have been through my workshop, but I actually did a workshop called Networking Like a Boss. And I've done it here at Temple probably 4 or 5 times. I've done it for some chambers of commerces. I just love people. I love communicating and networking. And building relationships now is so important that I suggest everyone try to do it. And to make it simple, I used to describe it to people as dating. Same thing. You meet someone, you want to put your best foot forward. You want to show them the things you like and the things you like about them. You can't really say what you like about someone until you learn. So now you got to ask those questions. You know, what are your favorite teams? What school did you go to? Well, if they're at Temple, you kind of already know. But what classes do you like? What professors do you like? Which ones get on your nerves? Just even building relationships in that sort of small space gets you in the mindset of building friends and honing those skills of relationship building. But once you get outside of that and you're talking to folks that you don't know for the first time, again, especially through networking, really just inquiring and asking questions about someone else, that'll get you every place you need to go, because people want to talk. Everyone likes talking about themselves, for the most part. So if I sit here and just pelt you with all these questions and show that I'm interested in you, you're going to feel you want the same back. You're going to want to learn about me. You're going to want to know more. So I love going into networking events and opportunities and asking folks questions that have nothing to do with what do you do? Because that's the most common question everyone gets. Oh, what do you do? Like, I'm so tired of hearing that every time. And sometimes even for me, more than others, I don't want to say what I do because I do too much. So I'd rather learn what you do, and then I can tell you what I do that marries with what you do the best, if that made sense. But generally speaking, I want to learn more about who you are as a person. You know, sometimes you can get into what you do by saying what brought you out to this event, Or have you been to these events before? What do you think about this space? I try to use things in my surroundings to help build that connection. When I was on the sales side, I'm going to someone's office. The first thing I look for are diplomas or bobbleheads or whatever that can give me some sort of connection, positive or negative. I go into someone's office and they got a New York Giants, graphic or something on their desk. I'm gonna come at their neck, like, bro, like you're a Giants fan? Where'd they do that at? Like, that doesn't even make sense. But they start laughing, oh, what are you, an Eagles fan, a Cowboys fan? Birds all day. Bro, I was at the game and we're just building a rapport, going back and forth, even as something trivial as sports or, places you like to go, just learn how to have conversations with folks that don't have to do with just work, especially if you're in a scenario where you don't have a breadth of work to come back at them with. Then you're really just building a relationship off of being a cool person. I love your hair. I like your style. All those things that you might say if you're recording someone. Do that in this setting as well. Don't do it to the point where you blend those two lines, because that can also get tricky. That can get tricky out there. Them work relationships is real. I've seen them. But you want to build that relationship and connect with folks in that genuine fashion. I always think if you ask about other folks, if you compliment other folks, that's a great way to get that ball rolling. And then you just kind of let it take it from there. Questions will then flow back and forth. You'll know quickly if it's a good match or someone you want to continue conversations with. I've been in plenty of networking events where I want to get away from the person I am talking to. That will happen. You can't let that discourage you. You got to keep moving, keep chatting with folks. I love chatting with people that are different than me. Very easy in a lot of my net stays. 95% of the time, not only was I the only person in pro sports in the networking room, I was the only black male in the room. I was one of the only people above 6'1" in the room. There were so many little factors that set me apart that I could feel like an outlier and not want to engage. But I would go the exact opposite and lean into that. I would talk to the people that would look completely opposite my direction or maybe didn't even pay attention to me. I found unique ways to start conversations. I've bumped people before. Oh, excuse me. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. What's your name? Like, I've done all that. So just engage folks as best you can and try to force yourself to get out of that comfort zone. Yes, talk to the folks that look like you. Build that camaraderie and that bond. But also try to talk to people that you might not normally talk to. That'll hone your skills on being even better at networking and building relationships.
And when it comes to getting out of your comfort zone, what advice would you give to students who are still figuring out what jobs or careers they might want to look at, what their niche might be after they graduate, who are still sort of in limbo?
That's a great question. I think I've been in limbo a few times, but it's been more in my professional career. Luckily, my internship turned into a career opportunity, so I didn't have a limbo at that point in time. I think what I would have done, though, is I would have spoke to my mentors. I would have spoke to my professors that I have a really good relationship with and talk to them about what I do like, what I don't like. Hopefully, if you have a good relationship with them, they kind of know your skill set a little bit, too. So they can provide some advice and some suggestions. The other element is I tell everybody, you were young as shit. If you're under 25, again, I'm someone who graduated college at 24, and I still had a healthy career before I was 30. If you are young, take the opportunities, even if it might not feel like an ideal fit, because you will gain so much experience from it. Take opportunities that you don't think are necessarily the best fit, because again, you never know. When we took our trips up to Madison Square Garden, luckily, Jeff, he gave me some knowledge. He said, go for the New York Liberty. He said, don't do the Knicks, like specifically. And we went up there, and there were opportunities with all the teams, the hockey team, their nonprofit group had a couple intern spots, and I applied straight for the Liberty. And it was the best decision I could have possibly made. During the internship, our offices were right near the Knicks, and I would go over and visit some of my fellow interns from Temple, and more often than not, I'm not gonna say it was all the time, but more often than not, they were rolling T-shirts to shoot out the cannon. And I'm like, I'm over here running to marketing firms to relay information from marketers. The Liberty staff was 4 people. I'm next to the CEO, Carol Blazkowski. She's one of the best female basketball players of all time. Her office is 8 feet away from me. And the projects they gave me were the projects that whoever's right under the CMO typically would have, but they don't have that person, so it fell to the interns. So me and my fellow interns, our experience gained from that was far beyond what the folks with the Knicks did, at least from what I saw. So I took an opportunity that I didn't think I was gonna want or enjoy, and it turned into the match that kind of lit everything else. So just be open to doing things that might not be exactly what you want to do, because again, once you're in that professional space, not only are you going to learn stuff that can be used in all other fields, you're just going to become that much more of a seasoned professional, more in your resume. Even if you got to take another internship even after college, that happens for some folks. There's nothing wrong with that. But do it with the right mindset. Don't take an internship and not build relationships at the internship. If you're going to go there, meet as many people you can. Go eat lunch with folks. You have to put that initiative forward. And again, you'll never know where those gems and opportunities will come from.
Of course, and as we get closer to the end of the episode, we've talked about the MAC, but can you give a little bit more information for the students that may not know about the resources?
Yeah, for sure. So the MAC stands for the Minority Alumni Coalition, and we created it in 2019, really out of the desire to have more cultural and diverse events for alumni. It was an alumni-focused thing at first. And we were like, we're not blaming the current alumni board for any of the things. I was on that board for years. And it's a volunteer board. You have very set goals that you have to do. That goal might not include providing an LGBTQ event during the month or doing something on Juneteenth. Like they didn't have that in their structure. And it's hard for these volunteers to now come together and add that to their plate. So we were like, well, what if we have alumni who are willing to push that forward and talk amongst ourselves and figure out what events we can do that can benefit the alumni base. So that was kind of the first part of it. And then it evolved a bit. We started realizing that we wanted to engage students as well. So we started creating committees within the MAC. So we have a committee that's kind of our events committee. So that does all the cool events that we'll put on. One of the best events we did, which was so vital, and that really let us know the MAC is needs to be here to stay, is right after the murder of George Floyd. We ended up doing a event, we just called it Trigger Warning, and we actually had a therapist join us on Zoom, and she was basically hearing folks' thoughts and providing, some advice, and the value that provided to our alumni was insane. So we've done a lot of events like that, and then we were like, all right, how do we engage students? So we created our education committee, which basically is putting on panel discussions with students. Now, we haven't done one in the last year and change. Don't get mad at us, all right? It was very easy when it was virtual, then it became a little tougher. Right now we do a lot partnering with Dr. Blair and the DEI team here at STHM to do some events. And we do have a committee that's going to be trying to run some new events going into next year. So we're super excited about that. And we then got a little crazy and decided we also want to impact future students. We want to impact youth in the high schools in Philly, especially after seeing how crazy it is for them in a lot of these schools. So we ended up creating this mindset of why don't we go into schools and talk to these folks about some of our professions and what we do. That program actually morphed into a collaboration with Fox Alumni. It's now called the Scribe Collective. So we help our local youth create their own narrative is our term. Also follow at the Scribe Collective on Instagram and at STHM Mac on Instagram. That's all of our stuff. But with the Scribe Collective, we actually have created a platform where we have cohorts of students every year, currently just at Dobbins High School. We have done Strawberry Mansion, and we're looking to expand to more schools in the future, especially once we get more alumni volunteers. But we have a 3-set cohort that we'll do where 3 times we'll go back to that school. And I believe our first session is about identifying your goals. The next session is how those goals relate to careers. And then the next session is financial literacy. And then we have sort of structured already these programs, so volunteers don't need to be knowledgeable about the financial space or whatever. They can just come in, we'll kind of teach them what we're gonna go over, and they're just guides with the students as we go through it. So right now, we serving 15 to 18 kids at one school. Our goal is to serve many schools and have cohorts of 20 or so kids at all those schools, and the MAC and the Fox Alumni Association will kind of collectively run that, not exclusive to alumni to be a part of it. We've had volunteers that are just friends of alumni who heard about it, and they want to come in and speak to the kids too. So it's a cool program that we're looking to expand that the MAC runs. And yeah, we just try to keep things light and fun and just keep the mindset that we want to serve everyone where they're at. We want to serve all alumni, but we know that there are so many different branches of alumni, so many different focuses and desires and wants. We want to do our best to cater to as much of that as possible.
Now, Zach, I don't think you realize what you just did. You just further described why I called you an STHM legend at the very beginning of this interview, right?
Fair.
That's what you just did. But also, another reason why you're a STHM legend is because you have remained connected with STHM. So why have you remained so connected to STHM?
STHM was really good to me. I spent 6 years here. I built a lot of amazing relationships. Timing-wise in my life, it was crazy. My father passed shortly after I graduated, and Jeff Montague was kind of like one of the closest male figures I even had, and the relationship we've built since then, that was really important to me. I distinctly remember some of the events that we had my junior year involved alumni coming back and talking, and I wish I could still remember the alumni I spoke with then, but it was just inspiring to hear what my future can be from them. And I was just like, I want to help other folks. I'm naturally a helper. I love to give my time and help other people. And STHM has given me so much, I felt like I really, really wanted to give back. And they've made it kind of easy for me to do it. You know, I was on the alumni board for 5 years or so, coming down when I could when I was in New York, but then once I was down here, I enjoyed coming to all the events, going to homecoming, and just the camaraderie with those folks. I never got a chance to join a frat or be a part of a sports club at Temple. My club is the Alumni Association, and you get all the same benefits. You know, I have those same long-lasting relationships. I now probably could go to 20, 30 different arenas and know somebody that works there, which is a really cool feeling. I bumped into 4 or 5 folks at All-Star Weekend. So I love that camaraderie, and I love sports, so it's like, makes it even easier. Like, if we were all, I don't know, lawyers, scientists, something like that, like, yeah, we're gonna be cool and friends, but like, the atmosphere when we come together isn't the same as it is, I think, from this school. And I mean that broadly when I say STHM, the hospitality side as well. So many awesome people at all these different hotels and doing different ventures. The relationships there are super strong, and the two industries are kind of married. So it's just been good to be a part of that from a more official standpoint and to be able to kind of share that mindset with others. I want our school to have the most engaging alumni base possible, and I think it should. It's one of the most diverse, in my opinion. And I just feel like if you have that energy coming from alumni as well, not only is that infused into the student base, they start to become alumni, and then they want to give back more. And then now when you're having these events where potential students are coming to see what's going on, they're talking to students, they're talking to alumni, they're getting that full circle mindset that, yo, I could go to Temple, I could go to STHM, and I can crush it. Because look how many people are involved and keep coming out and talking about it. So yeah, they've just been good to me, and I want to be good back to them. So yeah, I'm STHM all day.
STHM all day. And so as we wrap up this episode, I need to highlight how you've done quite a bit of name dropping throughout this episode. Just a little bit, just a little bit.
Humbly.
Just, yeah, very humble, very humble giant. What we want to end with is you giving us your STHM Mount Rushmore. For current students, if you're an STHM student, who are some STHM legends that they need to know? Name drop so they can instantly go on LinkedIn and Google people.
This is easy.
Okay.
Can I have 5?
I guess.
Thank you. My Mount Rushmore's a little different. I've name dropped Montague too many times because he gonna watch this and be like, yeah, I'm all you talked about. No, get out of here, Montague. So Jeff is on there. Betsy Barber. Gotta have Betsy on there. She's awesome. She's been very influential for me as well. Ooh, I should ask for 6. Ira Shapiro. If you don't know about Ira, Google Ira. I am going to go one of my favorite people, Dr. Deborah Blair. Still here, still crushing it, still making things happen.
The OG.
The OG. And I'll go to OG of OGs, Dolores Andy. If y'all don't know about Dolores, get your education up. I'm sure there's information on the STHM website about all those folks. So those would be my Mount Rushmore 5. Whoever should be 6 and 7, don't look at me any sort of way. I want to keep it a tight core group, but I think most folks would agree with that, especially those who have been here over the 2000s. Those 5 folks are super influential to the school.
That's a strong 5.
Strong 5. Oh, you're not beating it. You're not beating it. Championship team right there. Indeed.
Now, you've stated on interviews before that you are a big social media guy. You've dropped a few tags throughout this, but can you please tell us what's the best social media platform to reach you and how to slide in professionally if students wanted to contact you?
Slide on in. So my Instagram is best only because I'm on that platform all the time. I manage about 7 Instagram accounts currently for other people and businesses, so the app is always open. And my Instagram is zjames_RHC, Rebel Hill Consulting. LinkedIn is always awesome as well. So I believe I'm Zachary R. James on LinkedIn. Maybe I'll give you a little scan code and we'll do the magic of editing. We'll put it on the screen. But the other thing, love Instagram. By all means, tag me, whatever. If you go and call me Zack, spell my name right. I'm confusing, I get it. Zachary has an H, Z-A-C-H-A-R-Y. Z-A-C-H is Zach. I don't care what you tell me. I don't care all the people who might be offended who are named Zach and call themselves Zack. But once you make it Zack, it's Z-A-C-K.
Let them know.
Just let them know. If you don't, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna fight nobody about it, but if you wanna have a debate, I'll have a debate. And I'm just throwing this out to you. Before you come in my neck, have you ever met someone by the name Rich? You ever met someone by the name Rick? Do the math.
The math is mathing.
The math is mathing. My name is Zack with a K.
Thanks for letting us know. So, Zack, you have been great. STHM fan, STHM legend. Thank you so much for joining us today. Cheers, cheers. And thank you all for tuning in. This was the first of many. If you're interested in being involved in the STHM podcast, email me, ashley.gardner@temple.edu, and I will send you to my team, C and others. All right, so thank you all. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
And we're wrapped. We're cut. We're done. All right.